Johnson had fixed hundreds of cars in his life, but nothing could prepare him for what would happen the day after he helped a stranger on the side of the road. That morning, a helicopter landed near his trailer. Inside the workshop, his manager pointed nervously at a letter on the table. "Marcus, Almeida Motors is canceling the contract. They say your presence is making some of the high-end clients uncomfortable." For a moment, Marcus just stood there. He'd faced this kind of moment too many times before. The quiet sting of being underestimated. At 42, he was one of the best mechanical engineers in the county. 3 patents, a master's degree, 23 years of work, all reduced to a label someone else had chosen for him. "When should I clear my bench?" he asked calmly, though his chest burned. "Today," the manager said, avoiding his eyes. "You'll get a month's severance." An hour later, Marcus was sitting outside his small trailer in Sunset Valley Park. His tools were neatly packed in his old Dodge, and his daughter Zoe was still at school, which meant she wouldn't see the disappointment on his face. He stared at the envelope with his last paycheck. 2 months' rent, maybe 3 if he stretched it. Then what? "It's not happening again," he whispered. "Not this time." Just then, an expensive champagne-colored Range Rover rolled slowly through the dusty road, completely out of place among the old trailers. The car stopped abruptly. Smoke poured from under the hood. A woman in her 30s stepped out, elegant and clearly impatient. "Are you a mechanic?" she asked sharply. Marcus gave a small smile. "An automotive engineer," he said. "Perfect. I have a meeting in an hour, and this thing just quit on me. I called every shop nearby. They'll take 2 hours to get here." Marcus glanced at the logo on the side of the car. A Quantum Xanax, one of the latest hybrid models from Sinway Tech. A car worth more than 5 years of his old salary. "Do you even know how to handle one of these?" she asked. "I know it," Marcus replied, already lifting the hood. He didn't mention that he had actually designed part of its engine system years ago, before losing his job at Sinway under unfair circumstances. After a few minutes of inspection, he spoke. "Thermal regulator issue. It overheats when switching from electric to fuel mode. Design flaw." The woman frowned. "How could you tell so fast?" "Because I'd have built it differently," he said quietly, pulling out his tools. For the next hour, Marcus worked with precision and focus, rerouting circuits and adjusting the regulator. Finally, he wiped his hands. "Try it now." The woman turned the key. The engine hummed perfectly, smoother than before. "That's impressive," she admitted. "What do I owe you?" Marcus shook his head. "Nothing. Just glad to help." She studied him closely. "I'm Christine Sinway," she said. "Director of Operations at Sinway Technologies." Marcus froze. Sinway, as in James Sinway, the man who had taken everything from him. The world, it seemed, had a strange sense of irony. "Marcus Johnson," he said quietly, "former automotive systems engineer." Christine nodded, taking a sleek business card from her pocket. "Call this number tomorrow. I want to hear more about your ideas for improving our hybrid system." As the Range Rover disappeared into the distance, Marcus stood frozen, the card still between his fingers. 8 years ago, he had sworn never to go near anything connected to the Sinway name again. And now the company that had ruined him had come straight to his door. But what Christine didn't know, what no one knew, was that during those 8 long years of professional exile, Marcus hadn't stopped working. Hidden behind his small trailer, under an old tarp, was proof that James Sinway had only stolen a fraction of his talent, because Marcus Johnson's greatest creation was still waiting to see the light of day. If stories of injustice, perseverance, and redemption move you, don't forget to subscribe. What happens next will show how one chance encounter can spark the most intelligent and satisfying revenge ever imagined. That evening, Marcus's 16-year-old daughter Zoe found him sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the business card. She could sense trouble. She always could. "Dad, what's wrong? Something about work?" Marcus told her everything about losing his job and about meeting Christine Sinway. Zoe's face hardened the moment she heard that name. "Sinway? You mean the company that took your inventions?" "The same," Marcus replied quietly. "Are you going to call her?" she asked. "I don't know," he admitted. Zoe crossed her arms and looked him straight in the eye. Dad, you always say that opportunities don't come twice. Later that night, after Zoe had gone to bed, Marcus stepped out into the cool air and walked toward the shed behind their trailer. Inside, under that old tarp, lay the secret project he had spent 8 years building in silence, an advanced fuel-electric integration system he called Phase 1. The version Sinway had stolen from him improved fuel efficiency by 22%. His new prototype? 58, a revolution in clean energy. Maybe it's time, he whispered, running his hand across the polished metal. The next morning, Marcus dialed the number on the card. Christine answered almost instantly. Mr. Johnson, I'd like to invite you to discuss some possibilities. Would 2 p.m. today work for you? 4 hours later, his rusty Dodge Ram rolled to a stop in front of Sinway Technologies' gleaming headquarters. As Marcus walked through the glass doors, curious glances followed him, a middle-aged man in a worn shirt, holding a weathered briefcase. Marcus Johnson to see Christine Sinway, he told the receptionist. Moments later, Christine appeared. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming. As they crossed the lobby together, Marcus noticed the photos lining the wall company milestones, ribbon cuttings, award ceremonies. And in one photo, almost hidden in the background, he saw himself, 8 years younger, part of the original team that had built the hybrid system that made Sinway rich. In her office, Christine got straight to the point. I was impressed by your understanding of our system, she said. Did you work here before? Actually, Marcus replied evenly, I was in the hybrid systems division from 2014 to 2016. Christine blinked in surprise. Checking her computer, she pulled up his old record. The file ended with the words, Case Closed, Confidential Settlement. That's the official version, Marcus said calmly. Christine took a breath. Mr. Johnson, we're struggling with the new 4th-generation model. I'm proposing a short-term consulting role to improve the design originally your design. Whatever happened in the past, I'd like to offer you a new professional opportunity. She slid a folder across the desk. The proposed salary was more than Marcus had earned in a full year at the repair shop. I'll need some time to think about it, he said quietly. Of course, Christine replied. In the meantime, let me show you our new lab. As they walked, Marcus's eyes caught a door labeled Patent and Intellectual Property Archive. That room, he knew, probably held the files that had destroyed his reputation. The lab itself was breathtaking modern equipment, brilliant engineers, and cutting-edge prototypes everywhere. This is the heart of Sinway, Christine said proudly. A young engineer approached them. Ms. Sinway, the thermal regulator tests are still failing. This is Dr. Raymond Wong, Christine said. He leads the hybrid team. Recognition flashed in Raymond's eyes. Marcus Johnson, he said in disbelief, the inventor of the original SIH V2000 systems. Before Marcus could answer, a sharp voice thundered across the room. What is he doing here? Everyone turned. Marching toward them was James Sinway himself, the company's CEO. Christine, he barked, I thought you were still overseas. I came back early, she replied evenly, and I find you bringing this man into my lab. The entire room fell silent. Marcus Johnson didn't flinch. For the first time in 8 years, he was back on the battlefield that had once destroyed him, and this time, he wasn't leaving quietly. Interesting choice of words, Mr. Sinway, Marcus said evenly. Christine tried to explain what had happened with the Quantum ZX repair, but James cut her off sharply. Enough! Out! He snapped, pointing toward the door. Then, realizing the entire lab was watching, he forced a thin smile. Mr. Johnson, there's no place for you at Sinway Technologies. Security escort this man out. As the guards approached, Marcus stayed calm. But in that tense moment, he noticed something. Dr. Raymond Wong was watching him closely. And in the confusion, the young engineer discreetly slipped a small flash drive into Marcus's jacket pocket. Back at his trailer, Marcus inserted the drive into his laptop. The message on the screen was brief but explosive. I know what he did with your patents. I'm not the only one. Can we talk? Ray Wong. What no one at Sinway Technologies realized was that this new humiliation hadn't broken Marcus Johnson. It had awakened something unstoppable. In his shed lay not only a revolutionary engine, but also the key to his vindication, and to the downfall of the man who had taken everything from him. 3 days later, Marcus met Raymond Wong in a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. Wong looked anxious, constantly glancing over his shoulder. "Thank you for coming," he said, sliding a larger flash drive across the table. "This contains every internal message about your 2016 case. James altered documents, paid off witnesses, everything to steal your inventions." Marcus stirred his coffee slowly. "Why are you helping me?" "Because he's doing the same thing to me," Wong replied bitterly. "My work on the new thermal regulator is being reassigned to his nephew. History is repeating itself." "And the other engineers?" Marcus asked. Wong sighed. "We're all tired. Since you left, 6 brilliant people have been pushed out the same way. He's built his empire by taking credit for others' ideas." That night, back at the trailer, Marcus studied the files. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails, contracts, hidden memos, all proving how James Sinway had engineered his fall. Even more shocking was a list of other engineers, most of whom had suffered the same silent injustice. They needed someone who understood the regulator problem, Marcus explained to Zoe as they worked together in the shed. "They didn't realize they were giving me access to their entire system." Zoe smiled, her face glowing in the light of the laptop. "And now they really need you." The next morning, a sleek black sedan pulled up outside the trailer. Christine Sinway stepped out, looking tense and uneasy. "Mr. Johnson, we need to talk." Inside, she sat on the worn sofa, her usual confidence replaced by genuine concern. "Our engineers can't solve the issue," she admitted. "James is furious. We have a global launch in 3 days for the Quantum ZX. If this failure isn't fixed, it'll be a disaster." "And now he wants me back," Marcus said quietly. "He doesn't know I'm here," Christine confessed. "But yes, we need you. I can offer double your previous salary and future royalties on any solution you create." Marcus studied her for a long moment. "I'll do it," he said finally, "but on my terms. I want full access to the lab, no security, no supervision, just me and my assistant." "Your daughter?" Christine asked. "She's part of the project," Marcus replied simply. 48 hours before the big launch, Marcus and Zoe entered the Sinway Technologies lab under a storm of curious stares. Christine personally authorized their clearance. "You have 24 hours, and she said. "The final prototype must be ready for testing tomorrow." Father and daughter went to work immediately, connecting their own Sisha engine brought carefully in a sealed case to Sinway's diagnostic system. Ray Wong joined them discreetly, providing access codes and technical data. Then, just before dawn, a familiar voice cut through the silence. "What on earth is he doing here?" James Sinway stormed into the lab, his expression thunderous. "I said this man was banned." "It was my decision," Christine interrupted firmly. "We're a day away from the launch, and none of our engineers have solved the problem." "Actually," Marcus said, rising from his workstation, "it's already solved and improved." James blinked. "What?" "The Quantum ZX now runs 15% more efficiently than your design," Marcus said evenly. "That's impossible," James snapped. "Not impossible," Wong interjected. "I've checked the data myself. The results are real. This system is revolutionary." James hesitated, torn between disbelief and the urgent pressure of the upcoming launch. "Fine," he said finally. "Run the final tests. If it works, we'll discuss compensation." The next morning, Sinway Technologies' main auditorium was filled with journalists, investors, and industry leaders. James Sinway, flawless in his tailored suit, took the stage and declared proudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Quantum ZX, the most advanced hybrid innovation of the decade." But backstage, hidden behind the velvet curtain, Marcus and Zoe were watching, ready to reveal what would change everything. At the back of the stage, half hidden behind the curtain, Marcus and Zoe watched as James Sinway basked in the spotlight. He proudly proclaimed the Quantum ZX as the result of years of innovation developed exclusively by the Sinway team. Then came the highlight of the event, a live demonstration of the system's remarkable efficiency. The lights dimmed, the giant screen flickered to life, and in that moment, the empire James had built began to collapse. Instead of performance graphs and glowing numbers, confidential files appeared on the screen. Internal emails, forged memos, secret transactions. Line by line, the truth unfolded before the entire audience. A record of stolen ideas, manipulated evidence, and the destruction of dozens of engineers' careers. "What is this?" James shouted, fumbling at the controls. But the more he tried to stop it, the more the system revealed each file worse than the last. From the shadows, Marcus stepped calmly onto the stage. "What you're witnessing," he said evenly, "is the real innovation of Sinway Technologies, an elaborate system built to exploit the creativity of its own people." The auditorium erupted into chaos. Journalists hammered at their keyboards. Investors hurried toward the exits. Executives stood frozen in disbelief. James lunged toward Marcus, only to be stopped by security. "You destroyed everything," he yelled, his voice shaking. "No," Marcus replied. "You destroyed yourself. I only showed the world what you hid." As James was led away, Christine approached, her face pale, her voice trembling. "You planned this. From the beginning. The car repair, the visit to the lab, it was all part of it, wasn't it?" "Justice took 8 years," Marcus said quietly, "but it finally arrived." What no one in the audience knew was that Marcus's true victory had already been secured. Hours earlier, he had quietly filed new patents for his Sisha system, reclaiming his rightful ownership once and for all. What they had just witnessed on stage was not revenge, it was revelation. In the days that followed, the fallout was massive. Sinway Technologies' stock plunged by 45%. The media dissected every document that had been exposed. The board convened an emergency meeting and unanimously voted to remove James Sinway as CEO. When he finally left the building he once ruled, clutching a cardboard box of personal items, there was nothing left of the powerful figure he had been. Only the ruins of an empire built on deception. Meanwhile, back in Sunset Valley Park, a helicopter touched down on the dusty field, drawing curious looks from the residents. Christine Sinway stepped out, no longer the polished executive, but a woman ready to make things right. At Marcus's small kitchen table, she placed a folder before him. "The board wants to make amends," she said. "Every engineer who was wronged will be compensated. And you, Mr. Johnson, we'd like you to lead a new division, Director of Innovation and Sustainable Development." Marcus studied the offer, a faint smile forming. "And my Sisha system?" he asked. Christine nodded. "Fully recognized. Sinway will license the technology properly. You'll retain full ownership, and we're implementing new safeguards to ensure this never happens again." 3 months later, the transformation was complete. Under Christine's leadership, Sinway Technologies had become a model for ethical innovation. James faced multiple lawsuits, living in quiet obscurity as his fortune evaporated in legal fees. Marcus Johnson, once a forgotten name, now led a thriving department where collaboration replaced competition. The Sisha system, born in a dusty trailer shed, had become the industry's most promising advancement in sustainable energy. His signature shone proudly on every patent. The trailer was gone, replaced by a modern home with a private lab, where Marcus and Zoe continued their experiments side by side. Ray Wong, now his chief collaborator, led a team expanding Sisha's reach far beyond the automotive world. During a strategy meeting, Christine turned to Marcus and asked, "You could have destroyed the company completely. Why didn't you?" Marcus thought for a moment before answering. "Destruction is easy," he said. "Transformation, that's the real victory." One afternoon, on their way home from a conference where Marcus had just been the keynote speaker, father and daughter drove past the Almeida Motors dealership, the very place where his troubles had begun. Marcus slowed the car, glanced at the sign, and smiled. The storm was over. The engineer who once lost everything had rebuilt it all this time, on his own terms. In the parking lot, the former manager who had once fired Marcus stood frozen, staring at the new Sinway concept car gliding past him. The very car powered by Marcus's own technology. Recognition flickered across the man's face, followed by disbelief. "Do you want to stop?" Zoe asked, noticing her father's faint smile. Marcus shook his head, accelerating gently. "No need," he said. "Some victories don't need to be declared, only lived." On the university campus, where Zoe was now studying advanced engineering on a full scholarship, professors were already referencing something new in their lectures: the Johnson methodology of sustainable design, a legacy that no one could ever take away. Months later, during an interview with a major technology magazine, a reporter asked Marcus what he would say to people facing the same kind of injustice he once endured. Marcus looked out the tall window of his office, the skyline reflecting in his eyes. True justice, he said slowly, isn't about revenge. It's about restoring what's right. When your work is stolen or your worth is dismissed, don't quit and don't fight blindly. Keep creating. Keep improving. Excellence is a form of resistance no one can silence. Sotesharinom. At the new headquarters of the Johnson Foundation for Emerging Innovators, created with part of his settlement, Marcus launched programs for young engineers from underrepresented communities, making sure that no voice, no idea, would ever again be buried by corporate greed or neglect. Under his guidance, Sinway Technologies had achieved more ethical innovation and sustainable growth in 1 year than in all the years of manipulation under James Sinway. The results spoke louder than any speech. Integrity and success could thrive together. "You know what's funny, Dad?" Zoe said as they watched the broadcast of the launch ceremony for the first fleet of vehicles powered by the Sitcha system. James believed stealing ideas would make him powerful. In the end, that very mindset destroyed him. Marcus smiled. "He tried to bury me," he said softly, "but he didn't realize I was a seed." Today, Marcus Johnson's story is studied in business schools around the world, not just as a lesson in technology, but in integrity, resilience, and quiet strength. The man who once fixed a stranger's car outside his trailer had transformed his humiliation into a legacy that would inspire generations.